Good afternoon, good evening, good morning, good day, wherever you are in the world today. My name is Herb and I'm an alcoholic. Welcome to the second to the last wind-up meeting for the year's series. I'm an alcoholic, if I didn't say that. The call is being recorded, and I'm going to invite you to join me in that revised set-aside prayer. God, please set aside everything that I think I know about myself, my unmanageability, the 12 steps, and you, for an open mind and a new experience with myself, my unmanageability, the 12 steps, and especially you. Please join me in the serenity prayer. God, grant me the serenity to accept the things that cannot change, courage to change the things I can, and wisdom to know the difference. Well, as I indicated, this is the second to the last meeting. We've talked about each of the steps enough, I think, sufficiently on 10, 11, and 12 to reinforce the original teaching, but also perhaps to remind you and then to tease you, literally. Yeah, I mean that. To have a deeper exposure with 10, 11, and 12 by going to my YouTube recordings. I've done a 3-hour workshop on each of them within this last year. YouTube recording of those includes the PowerPoint, and they've all been edited, so they're tight and clean and sharp, according to my editor, and quite helpful because they're a very deep dive into step 10 as the tool of emotional sobriety, the tool of staying in alignment with reality. And step 11, to improve our consciousness. And I expanded to include my own personal practice, which I've reached outside of the 12-step teaching, step 11 meditation, which is the foundation of my practice, certainly of intentional consciousness, but I've expanded it to include contemplation. I won't comment anymore on that. There's a difference. The purpose is the same. The method is diametrically different. The outcome is the same. But it's like a 1-2 punch in terms of consciousness from my standpoint and my experience. And step 12, the key to that is really understanding what is a spiritual awakening. We spent our very second session on that to dive deeply into Appendix 2, a change in the way we think and feel and behave. And it's done to us, not by us, but not without us. And that's that co-creation, collaboration, cooperation journey that each of us has been on. If you're here, you've shown up fairly consistently, maybe totally consistently, but certainly somewhat consistently each of the weeks and done some of the work, all of the work. It's up to your individual efforts and time available. And you've had an experience of awakening. What is that? We're going to talk about that today. I hope you'll share with me your retro, which is what I've asked you to do, is stop on pause and look back over the shoulder of the last 12 months. Has there been a shift in your consciousness by the standard of the questions and the answers that you gave 12 months ago in contrast to the current consciousness that you have? And more especially, has your behavior changed noticeably for you, perhaps by the comments of other people? Sponsorship. For me, the key is both to have a sponsor and to Well, maybe be a sponsor, but certainly contribute to humanity around you. I'm broadening it way beyond the 12-step intent, at least in the book. I know from reading the manuscript draft what Bill's original intention was. Carry the message to all, especially alcoholics. That's the real spirit of it. Be helpful and useful to all, not just people in your fellowship, not just people in addiction. But that's a personal choice also, as to how broad you want to apply it. But clearly the key here is, and it's a very understudied and scarcely written about part of the 12th step, and that's about principles. Practice these principles in all our affairs, which goes all the way back to step 1 on manageability. We cannot stay in alignment with principles, reality as it manifests. I don't care where you come from in terms of your orientation of explanation of reality. What reality is, it just is. And it has its own principles. Some people call them spiritual principles. I don't need to. I like the term universal principles, but I really am embracing recently the term human principles. These are just principles of humanity. And civilizations around the world forever have recognized that there are some constant and consistent principles which provide human decency for the individual and human decency between individuals. And what are those for you? So the first request on my part for you to share is about your experience, your shift, the changes that you may or may not have had, that you expected and didn't have, your disappointments even with the process. That'd be fine. I'd like to know about that. And then the commitment that you're making going forward. Some of you have finished and are in the 9th step. And some of you are at some place from the 4th step to the 9th step. It's just fine. It's your journey. Please do not judge yourself negatively. Oh my God, you're here. You're in the upper 5% of humanity, or certainly of the people in the 12-step program who have in fact got to where you've gotten and been as consistent and diligent with the steps as you've been. What's your commitment going forward? And how are you going to stay accountable for that commitment? Those are the 2 key questions I ask at the end of every event, at the end of every retreat, at the end of every workshop. Because as we were talking about at the beginning, Rita and I were back and forth about the beginning and the end. Yeah, it is, both. But this work never ends. Bill says that we've entered the world of the spirit, and this is lifetime. I was talking to somebody about this the other day on a personal basis, one-on-one, and the phrase came to me, and I've embraced it. I like it. This is a life course, a life practice. Life is a practice, and we get our graduation diploma at the end. We get our graduation diploma at the end. Yep, that's called a death certificate. That's in your face. Yeah, that's when you graduate with that death certificate. That's your diploma of graduation. All right, that was fun. For me anyway. Let's talk to some folks here.
So I definitely have experienced a ton of change in this workshop that I'm so grateful for. I went over the questions, and really the thing that changed the most for me was my conception of my higher power. The usefulness of that conception has completely changed for me. Before this, I knew that it was there. I just didn't know how to get there.
Yeah.
And when I know something's there and I don't know how to get there, I tend to be very hard on myself. And that's the other shift is, when I looked back at how I answered the questions, it didn't have any of that gentleness to it. It didn't have any of that, that being carried. And that's how I feel now. Like, I feel like these revolutionary things are happening, but they're happening to me. And I'm just sort of being transformed in this way that, like, it's not anything. I don't need to crack any whip. I don't need to do anything like, it's just, it just carries me to that next place because it must, right? Like that's inevitable.
That's the nature of it, whatever that means. Yes.
Yeah. And I guess the one thing that really changed for me, in addition to my consciousness, is my behavior. So when I came to this workshop, my main addiction is food addiction that I'm working on right now. And I experienced a lot of good things in my workshop, a lot of wisdom. I've been in the same size body since 2018, which, for somebody that used to be over 220 pounds is, pretty big, right?
No, it's pretty
or pretty small. Exactly. I had like a preteen sort of hanging on the front of me, and I let her go. 85 pounds. What can you do?
That's almost a person.
Yeah, exactly. It's a preteen. But what was happening was I still had those periodic relapses. And I didn't really understand why. I didn't know how to, I felt like I was doing everything that was being suggested and I just didn't get it. And it was when we were at the third step that things really changed for me. And I heard somebody share about their, we call it a break in our sort of language. And I heard somebody else share about their break and on this meeting. And it suddenly occurred to me that my cravings was my higher power talking to me. And I never thought of it like that. I was so scared of the cravings. I was hiding from the cravings. It was like the monster under my bed because it was so powerful. It was going to drag me under. And then all of a sudden it changed.
Did it change words? Because craving implies the addiction, the disease. Carl Jung talks about this longing that we have, this thirst or hunger, literally, that in his letter that we have. And it's more, rather than a craving, it's a yearning, which we misread.
Yes, I was misreading it 100%. So what was what was happening was that what I realized was that my craving, my desire to eat, my yearning or whatever, was me trying to remain unconscious about something.
All right.
That my higher power was saying, hey, I want you to see this thing. This thing is happening in your life right now, and I'm so excited about it. Like, I want you to pay attention to it. And I just could not see it. It's blank, and I want to stay blank. I'm like, no. Just let me eat something. Like, I'm not ready to be conscious. And what I realized was this was my higher power inviting me, because it wasn't about food. It wasn't about hunger. It was about, if I wanted to stay unconscious, it would eventually lead to the food. And my higher power is okay with that. It's like, you know what? If you want to stay unconscious, I love you. It's okay. And I don't have to beat myself up. However, there is another option.
Right.
And that other option is to become conscious of this thing that's happening. And so the behavior was almost exactly the same that I did before. I paused, I reached out to my higher power, but this time I was reaching out, asking for the intuition of what the next right action would be to become conscious, to be lifted, my perspective to be lifted to where I could see this thing that my higher power wanted me to see. And sometimes that was a phone call to a fellow. And sometimes that was re-listening to our meeting on YouTube. And sometimes it was something as simple as just, I'm exhausted and it's okay to rest.
Yes.
Like it's okay to stop and to sleep, because I can't tell you how many times I'm like, this isn't okay.
That's right. No, most everybody on the line can really relate to that dynamic. Yeah.
And ever since I started thinking about these urges as my higher power reaching down to me and being like, I'm so excited, I'm going to tell you something.
Yeah.
I have not had a break since.
Wow.
And I can't tell you how amazing that is.
Yeah. I call that reframing. I'm making a note. Your reframing. That's why I offered the suggestion of changing the word from the craving. The energy is the same in you, but when you name it craving, it has that negative connotation. And when you change it to whatever word, you just use some word that was a very positive word.
Invitation.
Invitation. Yeah. Then it creates an entire different relationship with the energy.
It does. It completely changed everything for me. And when I talk to people, they have no idea what I'm talking about. They can't even, like, unless you've been on this workshop, you can't really understand where this comes from. But it's so revolutionary. And I've experienced so many things like that. My prayer and meditation time has been completely changed. I always did 30 minutes every morning. But I would go through long stretches where it just felt like a desert because I didn't feel my higher power there. And now I always have the consciousness.
Yeah.
I always have this incredible awareness that no matter what's going on with my feelings, that my quiet time is so productive.
Yeah.
And, I've been taking that suggestion about character defects and doing the prayer for one. And instead of praying for all of them at once, and I'm still doing that every day after my guided thoughts. It occurs to me what character defect I'm working on, and I do the prayer for that particular character defect that day, and asking for strength to go out from here. And it completely changes my focus every day. So many things that I've gotten out of this workshop, and it's not to say that life is easy. Life is not easy. I'm going through a terrible time right now with my best friend, and her daughter's 15 and she just ran away. So many character defects are coming up in me. Like I've got so much to pray about every morning, but it is a completely different experience.
Yeah. Wonderful. Well, just know for everybody, there's more. At the same time, I don't want to give the impression that, oh my God, I'm always going to be in this energy of turmoil. No. Mostly when we get on the other side of step 9, the river is very smooth. Every once in a while we hit what I call white water. And then we just navigate it, but mostly the river is smooth.
I have found through this workshop, when I came here from doing this 12 steps for the first time. I'd been in a 12-step program for a year and some months, and I had tried to do your workshop just through the internet originally. I had your recordings, I had your material, and I did that for about 3 months and realized I couldn't do that by myself.
100%. I could not myself. All right, that's right.
Yeah, and I worked real hard at it too, because I was really desperate for it. So then I found out your meeting was starting in June, and I got accepted. I was beside myself, and what I was coming here for, I knew that you had something in this program that I needed. When I got here, I was so insane. I don't even remember the first 3 steps the first time. I was so traumatized by the food and trying to quit eating and trying to figure out how to eat and all of that. And so I was unsteady by the time I got through with the 12, even though I did have a spiritual awakening about surrender that I had never understood before. Then I got here, and what I really found was after doing my 9th step the first time, after doing my amends, I still had so much shame, regret, and remorse. Mm-hmm. And I woke up with it every day. I no longer was eating. I had been abstinent, still am, but time is not a tool. So this morning I still got up with, what do I do today besides eating? So, but what came to me, and I can't describe to you when or how it happened, but it happened during the during the 6th step. Something drastically changed when I began to look at my character defects, but I was able, what was done to me was I could not forgive myself. Mm-hmm. So when I was going through the resentments, all those resentments were about me. I had already taken care of the ones about everybody else. Yeah. These were things that I could not change in my past, things that I found out after the fact, and could not forgive myself for. Yeah. During that process of looking at those, going through all the whole process you have set out for step 4, all of a sudden, and I don't know when it happened, I began to think differently about my responsibility in those that remorse and regret, and found out that I did what the only thing I could do at the time because I didn't know what was going on. That's right. What happened through that is that there's a freedom with myself. So, and I think here's I think a good example of what I'm trying to say, and I'm not doing it. I can't really.
You're doing a great job.
But what happened was in my study group, we're reading Forgive for Good. And we got to a place that he asks a question. Think about a very hurtful situation that you have a lot of hurt and remorse and emotion around. So I sat there for 2 minutes trying to find something, Herb. What I did is I visited those things I carried in here. Mm-hmm. And there was no more hurt. Wow. There was no more remorse. And when I thought of it, it was a memory that still is sad, that it's reality, that it actually happened. Right. But there wasn't a plane to get out of the air about it. Yeah. That was a miracle. Right. I can't tell you when it happened. But and so that's where I am today. From this workshop, I'm free. When I wake up in the morning, my first thought is, thank you, God, and I go to do my morning practice upon awakening. Yeah. No longer do I wake up with a catch in my throat, either eating myself to death or the regret and remorse. Mm-hmm. So where I want to go from here, Herb, because I had an experience this week with step 11 that I didn't see the first time we were in step 11. I still had too much garbage, I guess. Yeah. And what came to me through this step 11, it was so clear because I had a walk with God before I got here. And I have carried this question through the whole workshop of why wasn't that enough? I already had a morning practice of a quiet time. I already had prayer. I did not have meditation because I always thought meditation was sit and be quiet. Yeah. And so I began meditating after you explained to us what meditation was. So I have been doing that now for months also. I know that has made a difference. But what came in step 11 was, he says, we used to pray and basically make demands of God. Yeah. And now what came to me from a meeting several weeks back now, a lady at the end of the serenity prayer said, God, may your will and mine be one. And that invitation has transformed me.
Absolutely.
Because that invitation of saying, God, I'm willing for you to change my will, in other words, you know, I can say, God, may your will be done with a clenched fist. Now, your will be done, but I'm not happy about it. But when I say, God, may your will and mine be one,
Yeah,
my hand's open.
that's it.
And it's an invitation. It's so many transformations
Yeah,
during this process. But understanding finally that all those prayers and all that time that I thought I was so close to God, basically understanding now that I was demanding. And then, was what I heard him, or was it my will saying, yeah, here's the answer, and taking off? So my calling, Herb, you said, you know, think about what is your call. My calling is to be a step guide and a sponsor for people who do your workshop.
yeah.
This has absolutely changed everything about me, and I want to help another person find what I found.
Yeah, wonderful, wonderful.
Thank you so much, Herb.
And you will, not only are your words and your knowledge important, but the tone and energy and positive will communicate. It will create a prayer fire.
Yes. I'm
Thank
so excited, looking forward to it. Thank you so much, Herb.
I've got a question. I was thinking about step 12, and so in the program they say you have to give it away in order to keep it, and so that's one side, and the other side is you say we either how do you say we either transfer the solution or the disease.
Yes.
So since I've heard you saying that, I'm feeling like I'm postponing to sponsor somebody more and more. I really want to feel like I've got the solution, and I don't feel that way. I'm just feeling like I'm starting to sense the solution, to discover the solution. So how would you approach it? Like, what would you do?
How much time do you have in a 12-step program?
2 years.
You have a sponsor,
Yeah.
and how far along are you in finishing your steps?
I decided to do step 9 and to write a letter to my father, like you suggested. And that writing that letter brought up a lot of resentments. So now I'm going back to step 4 and writing out even the smallest resentments, so I can feel
Good.
I can
Good.
write this letter from the heart.
Yes, wonderful. But
Yes.
implied in your answer, though, is that you have finished your 4th and 5th step at some level, and you've done your 6th and 7th and 8th step at some level, and now you're in doing your 9th step. Is that correct?
Yeah.
And the big book says we commenced this way of living as we cleaned up the past. Way of living meaning 10, 11, and 12. So you're ready, girl. You're ready.
Okay. Okay.
You can help somebody have the experience, or at least be exposed to the instructions that you had. They will have a different experience, but you can tell them what you did to finish step 1.
Okay.
And then lead them along the path. Share what you have an understanding of and an experience with. Don't try to be Herb. Don't try to be anybody on the call that you've heard that you admire. And be very quick to say, gosh, I don't know. Gosh, I don't have any experience with that. Gosh, let's talk to my sponsor about that together.
Yeah. That makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah, and then you get experience.
Okay.
All right.
Okay.
All right.
That's a very good suggestion. Thank you, Herb.
All right. Thanks very much. Well, it's such a relevant question because it hasn't been asked or answered here in terms of, so how, if you've never sponsored anybody, whether you're 1 year, 2 years, or 20 years, there are people who have never sponsored anybody. And I'm not saying that sponsorship is the only service. I am absolutely not saying that. The 12 step says carry the message to other alcoholics. All right. And the message is you can have a spiritual awakening through doing the steps. It doesn't say that I'm going to take you through the steps. So, but you asked your question, and you are prepared to help somebody work the steps because you have worked them.
Okay.
Yeah?
Yep. Okay.
Thanks very much.
Okay, thanks.
I joined the workshop to figure out who I was because I was so good at being who you wanted me to be. I was specially influenced by men and being what they wanted me to be. So I didn't even know who I was. So that's when I walked into your workshop. And then God has blessed me throughout my life. I've been very, very blessed, but I've always been a taker. So I asked God, I said, what do you want from me? What do you want me to do? And I found out he wants me to serve others, and he wants me to take care of my food, and he wants me to work on my prayer life. And I have to give what was freely given to me. And I've been in AA for 17 years. And I had a problem with that because it's all about me. I wanted to do the work because I was getting married and I wanted to be the best partner I could be. And the relationship ended. It took me a year to recover. And thank God I was in this workshop to process until I got to the 9th step. And once I made the 9th step, I knew the relationship was over and I was able to move on. I was set free. And it was the best feeling in the whole world. And it really made me sad and pissed me off when you kept saying, nobody's coming, no white knight. I'm the one I'm waiting for. Oh, goodness. Anyway. And so there's been a shift for the first time in my life. I don't need to lean on a man. I am enough. And I wanted a man to take care of me financially and emotionally. Funny thing, I never found any man that could do that for me. And I've learned, and I'm learning, I'm doing it for myself, and I have always done it for myself. I just didn't have my eyes on self. With God's help, I've been able to take care of myself financially, but I had terrible, terrible entitlement issues with my family, with men. And after this workshop, I am self-supporting my own contribution. And it feels wonderful. I feel so empowered.
Yeah.
I have to learn about emotional sobriety before I can get into my next relationship.
Yeah.
This way I will attract somebody with emotional sobriety, which will be healthier for both of us. And I can only imagine how much fun that relationship's going to be. And I'm really happy with myself. If a relationship doesn't happen, it's okay. I've had enough of them. It's okay if I don't have any more. I never could understand, never could understand how people could laugh at themselves. I didn't get it. And you know what? I can laugh at myself. And the biggest laugh that I have when I tell people, and I do a belly laugh, is I learned from you guys, everyone has their own reality and their own perception, and they perceive things differently. We all perceive things differently. And all these years, I wanted to change you. I wanted you to think the way I thought. And today, I don't need to control. What a waste of energy.
Yeah.
And it's so much fun when I go, I'm 66 years old and I didn't know everybody had their own reality. And I just crack up laughing. And it felt so good. I was talking to a friend and anytime I mention that, I start laughing. And you know, I'm not a laugher. And do you know I was a clown for 10 years because I had to hide behind the mask of a clown, and I performed, and I was so serious, and I really had a hard time laughing in that job. You know, and everybody told me how great I was, but I felt so uncomfortable doing it. So it's good to laugh. I'm actually, and I want to find some, and I have actually, there is a friend that came into my life, and I don't want a relationship. I just want a friend, and he can make me laugh, which is fun. For the very first time, I was able to tell my two sisters that I had a resentment with because they think they know it all. And I found out it's not they. I thought I know it all. So I was able to tell them directly saying, you're right. And just those words coming out of my mouth, first of all, I had pains in my chest when I said it. But then it took a couple of days went by and I could say it again. And now I feel it's okay. It's okay if you're right. I don't have to be right all the time. So that has been very freeing and really has freed up the whole area of my chest is not tight anymore. And you know what? I started enjoying them. I have a business, and my sister's had a business for 40 years, and she's been helping me with my new little business. And I sit back and I just listen to their crazies, and it's okay. It's who they are. First for me. And 17 years, I never thought I was totally powerless. But my God, through this workshop, has gotten bigger. And because I played God for a long time. Today, I don't have to play God. But you know what? I experience his shield and his love for me all the time, all the time. And what I want to thank you for the gentle reminder when you're talking about God. Now, I love God. I love my Catholic religion. I love my Mass. But you had a gentle reminder through the whole year about God. It was very, very gentle. I knew you didn't want to hurt other people who didn't believe in God. And what happened to me was it helped me realize I need God all the time. Not just when things are really bad. I need him all the time. And I am really powerless over people, places, and things. And for a long time, I thought I had power. 17 years of sobriety, time doesn't mean anything. And I've already had a spiritual practice, which I really like. And but from your encouragement and your gentle softness about God, I started a meditation practice. Talk about awesome. Oh my gosh. And I can see myself moving into contemplation before the year's out. And when I heard you talk about it, I can never do that. I can't sit. You know what? I want to be in his presence. I'm not ready now. I'm working on my meditation, which is fine. And so when things come to an end, I hate the end of a book, the end of a story, the end of the vacation. But, I feel really good about this ending because, first of all, I have 10, 11, 12. Of course, I have God. I've always had God. And I never, ever, ever, ever going to be alone because I have God. And so I have my accountability partners set up. I have my sponsor, my spiritual director, myself, my step guide, my 4 children, and my therapist. We're ending our relationship. I've been with her for a while, but I've been in therapy probably 10 years. And I said, I'm ready to graduate. I'm finished. And she said that this has been the best year. My growth has been the best watching me this year because she walked right through this with me and doesn't know anything about recovery.
Right.
And she said, this is the best work I've done this year. What a wonderful compliment.
It is. Yeah.
So 2 words cannot express how much I appreciate you. But thank you and your work. But thank you.
Thank you.
When I started the process, I had a vague understanding that I was really anxious about this whole thing. I was anxious because I wanted to do well. I was anxious because I wanted to grasp it all and soak it all in. And that's important for me because going through this year, I really came to understand that my focus, my desire to want to do well, that what some people call that perfectionist side of myself, was a major cause of a lot of my distress in life. Mm-hmm. It is a major, I shouldn't say was, it is a major cause. And in learning that, I also learned that it's probably not going to go away. But what has happened is I've developed tools to manage.
Yep.
I've developed tools to manage that and manage other things as well. I really wanted a spiritual awakening. I really wanted this major thing to happen so I could get it done with. I had been into 2 AWOLs before that in another program. And I'm like, why can't I get this? And I had gone to one of your seminars. But anyway, and I said, maybe I'll get it through her because he seems to know what he's talking about. That's what went into my head. So I got here and I realized that, you know what, that was like me going to God and saying, why can't I understand the universe? It's not for me to get, it's for me to experience.
That's nice.
And for me, it's been a very methodically slow process, at times very frustrating.
Yeah.
But at this point in the process, I'm not frustrated anymore. I just say, it's my journey.
Yeah.
And, it's so nice to be able to say, there's a level of relief when I can look at somebody else whose journey they may have started at a different place. I don't know. I don't need to know. It's nice to be able to know I don't have to feel that anxiousness because X number of people seem to get something that I don't get right now. I'm okay.
Yeah.
I'm okay. And that's a huge, huge burden off my back. That's a huge understanding of what this is about. And I've been able to work with other people, actually. And initially, my personality was one of, darn, I want to work with anybody. I'm here to get this for me, only me, And, you kept drilling into our heads, I'll say, selfishness, self-centered is the root of the problem. Yeah. And one day I woke up and I realized, oh my God, you don't want to do it, but that's because you're being selfish. Mm. That's because you're being self-centered. And I never thought I was selfish and self-centered. Not like that. I figured that was something else. So I've probably gone way off where you.
No, you're right on the bullseye. Right on the bullseye. Yeah. See, nobody can argue with a person's experience. Nobody can say that you're talking from your butt, or you're blowing smoke, or you're off topic. Right. When you're talking about your experience in the real sense that you just shared, it's right on the money. Absolutely.
Thank you. Yeah. So I just want to say thank you for doing all the work that you've done over all the years and all the different seminars, so that I could come at this time and just learn.
Yeah.
The teacher came.
Yeah, and the student was ready.
Absolutely.
There you go. Thank you so much. Yeah.
Big thing that came out of this one has been the people pleasing, and still that sense with the mom / victim thing around that. And I got on my knees one day about a month ago, and I truly pled with God in a third step and just said, help. Yeah. And that's the best third step I ever work. And it has been amazing what's happening. And I've been plummeted into trauma work. And basically, I have been using this program to beat myself over the head with stuff that I could not realistically get from this program that I need to get elsewhere for the horrible neglect and effect of narcissism. And I've had 2 sponsors beat me over the head for it and say, when are you going to let go of your mother?
Yeah.
And
people don't understand. And Dr. Wellworth in San Francisco, a clinical psychologist, talks about that in terms of spirituality and therapy. And he coined the phrase spiritual bypass.
Yes.
What
Yes.
that means is you do not go to a priest for a broken leg.
Right.
You go to a orthopedic surgeon.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what you're talking about. And that's what your sponsors who beat you up didn't realize. And it's not their fault. They just didn't know. Yeah. I didn't want to interrupt, but I had to there just to give it a much more broad reinforcement for everybody that's listening, because that is such an important point for us. The 12 steps are not a panacea.
No. Right.
They're
Right.
very effective in the scope of their purpose, which is a spiritual awakening.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you. Go ahead, please.
No, please. I didn't feel interrupted. I felt flowed.
Oh, yeah,
So
yeah. Good.
don't worry about it. And it's been very helpful. I appreciate that I can ask you questions, because I've gotten, and I've talked to other people about this, that I've had to let go of old ideas.
Yeah.
Maybe, I don't know if I should say this publicly, but I've had to let go of old ideas that I've picked up in the 12-step rooms.
Oh, there's no question. There's a lot of ignorance that's negative and deleterious, meaning not helpful.
Correct. And like, this will solve all your problems.
Correct.
And I've hung in there for too long out of loyalty to that ideology.
Oh,
and,
yeah. We take the Kool-Aid.
Yeah, because I'm an addict, and I my thinking got me here, and actually, well, it was anyway, it was God it's always God. It always comes down to God, and me letting God. And it's just been amazing, the synchronicity of the resource. It's just amazing. And I won't spend the time right now talking about it, but I let it go.
And 9-step promises uses that word. We will be amazed before we're halfway through. Yeah. Now, it was all the way through for me, not just halfway, but I'm still amazed.
Yeah.
As recently as this morning, I'm sitting in my chair doing my meditation, thinking about my life and my journey, and I'm just blown away.
Yeah, right. Yeah. And I'll be really honest with you. I had to stop comparing myself to your timetable, because I thought, well, how come? And I just thought, I don't know what God's thing is, because your age, my age, your length of sobriety, my length, it's like, God creates all of us differently and has different. It is not my job. Right. It is just, I am not the one to evaluate that. And I really have had to let it go. And that's been, it's my ego when I compare despair, and because you're the teacher, of course I'm going to think about that, and stuff. And so I let go of that. And anyway, but the thing that I wanted, there's two things that have, one revelation I want to ask you about. And the other one is that the disappointment has been the people pleasing that I mentioned came up, and once I saw that, because it is dishonest. Yeah. And when I saw the dishonesty in it, I was immediately willing to let that go, and not even being on that step yet, because I have got to practice honesty. I mean, that's the foundation of my recovery. And when I saw the dishonesty in it, in my motive, I thought, okay. And so my stepdaughter, who there was still, I practice I don't people please except with the bully women, like my mother and my sister narcissists. And not always, but when I'm afraid they won't be pleased, that's when it comes up. So I knew that my stepdaughter, there's a situation that anyway, and she hasn't talked to me for 3 weeks.
Yeah. There'll be consequences for taking care of yourself at some point. There will be consequences. That's correct. Not always negative, hopefully not, mostly positive, but be prepared. That's right. When you start changing the pattern of communication and behavior, some people don't like it.
Yes, and I've gotten some clarity about my marriage, about some things, and I don't know how big it is or not. I put that in God's hands, and yeah. So, but I'm not cow-cowing. See, in the past, I allowed that woman, my stepdaughter,
Yep.
to guilt trip me, and
Right.
she knew it.
Oh,
So there
sure.
you go.
Yeah.
Yeah. But anyway, and so the last thing I wanted to say is that the trauma book that Higher Power led me to used the exact same word that Chuck C uses in A New Pair of Glasses, our lenses.
Oh, nice. And what's
And
the name of the book?
the name of the book is Pete Walker, Chronic CPTSD from Survival to Victory. It's a longer name than that. I'll text it to you.
Yeah, would you please? Yeah.
Yeah, it's what he's done is he kind of, it's very broad. It's not as deep, it's broad.
No, yep.
It's very good. It's very thorough. Mentions a lot of resources. But anyway, and so I was fascinated by that
Right.
because that's what, we talk about in the big book process, and you've talked about, and Chuck C talks about. And I thought, and that's already been happening to me through this therapy and trauma work I'm doing. And I have realized, and I've been demoralized in my recovery with some of my reactions, especially in my Al-Anon recovery, that I have, because it's all about reacting. That's the Al-Anon disease, right? And I have reacted, and I now know that's about my trauma being triggered. And I'm still completely responsible for it. But it's not because I'm not working my Al-Anon program, because that's just another way of putting the Band-Aid on.
Right.
And that's what I've been doing. And I also realized that my high level of athleticism, because I got very athletic until I got my fractures, kept tabs on this.
Yeah.
So anyway, it's been very revelatory. And so I'm really grateful. I'm going to be doing this next time with you as well. Because just like you said, it is the best meeting I go to, because people that are on here, their light, the dimmer switches up.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm finding fewer people that I want to talk to in the recovery program.
Well, many people have said, Herb, you have spoiled my AA meetings.
Yes. So I just, there's a lot of people I don't want to talk to anymore because we speak a different, that I felt that way for a long time.
Yeah, right.
And so, yeah, but anyway.
Thank you so much.
I wanted to share a little bit of one of my daily prayers today. I actually did this work 4 years ago with your assignments and a step guide, and it took about 7 or 8 months to have recovery. And it was it changed my life. It changed my life then, and that was 4 years ago. And I had the sense with this workshop this time that I wanted to do it again. I was so much better with my relationships. I wasn't having any trouble with food. I'm in OA, but I was plagued with self-doubt, and which I now know is perfectionism, and a deep, deep need for a feeling of safety and security. And during the 4th step that we did, I was doing the resentment about my daughter, something about her college loans, and it came out that what I was mad at, so very angry at, was myself for not being perfect. And with the work, with the openness and willingness that God gave me, I was able to write a prayer of removal of deep resentment of myself and the many years that I spent terrorizing myself for mistakes. So this is just a part of my prayer.
Spirit of the universe, thank you for setting aside my old ideas, especially the outmoded protective measures I've used to try to get safe. Lord, I am spiritually sick. Help me show myself tolerance, compassion, and patience. Release me from being mean to myself. Release me from my shame, remorse, and holding on to self-blame. Unshackle my heart and mind from their old processes. Free me. I'm ready. I'm ready to trust you and your care. I'm willing to live, to thrive, and to flourish in uncertainty, because I'm safe in you and secure in your guidance, grace, and wisdom. So for the last couple of months, I've been living in the reality of uncertainty. I don't know if my granddaughter's going to stay safe.
Yes.
I don't know if my husband, he's not in good health, and I don't know how long he's going to live. I don't know what I'm going to do when he passes. I don't know day to day. There's so much that I don't know about. But now I have, there's something inside of me, and I know that it's God. I receive guidance. Now, I spend a lot of time, and I have for the last 4 years, I do a directed meditation, directed thinking every day. I started centering prayer 4 years ago. I was terrible at it, terrible. But I showed up, and I'm still doing it. Now I have, thank you God, I've been doing it a second time, most days. So that's 7 days a week I do centering prayer once, and 5 days a week I do it twice. So I'm showing up. I don't know what's going to come of it. I still think I'm terrible at it, but all God wants from me is to show up.
Yeah.
God has the power. And if I look at my life, how I've been able to, because of step 6 and 7, God's taken away procrastination. I don't procrastinate anymore. So I'm actually working less. I've got a part-time job. I used to work 30 hours a week. I mean, every 2 weeks. And now I work 15 or 20 because I'm not procrastinating the whole time. And I just started doing that 30-day process of being accountable to somebody for my perfectionism. Now, that's been harder because that's default. It's in my body.
Yeah.
I had childhood trauma. This past year, I've done therapy and I've done EMDR, and there's been big release from my body. I've done some body work on Peter Levine's stuff, and I've just been given tool after tool, and like God is saying, here, my sweetheart, it's all yours. Look.
Yeah.
So I'm very grateful.
I can tell. Yeah. And you mentioned so many questions about what you don't know, but it sounds like you do know 2 things: who you are,
yes,
and that you have support.
Yes.
And that really is all we need to know: who I am, what my purpose is, and that I have support. Everything else, I don't need to know. I just need to show up and do the next indicated thing and accept reality as it manifests, as it evolves.
Right.
We don't have to like it.
Right. Actually, yeah, I'm totally over that, the liking it. And I want to reiterate what you've said before. I think sponsoring is the most important thing that I do. I have a sponsor. I have a step guide. I talk to other people who are recovered. I ask for advice, and I also sponsor others, and I act step guide. And there's one other thing that I'd like to say, and that has to do with the food, the food issues, the food addicts, compulsive overeaters, bulimics. I've often felt, and this may be something I have to do in an inventory later on, but I've often felt as if the compulsive overeaters are like at the bottom of the heap. There's the alcoholics, the drug addicts, the sex addicts, much more interesting than me and my eating, or my friend who throws up after she eats. I mean, how can a person do that? Binge and then throw up. So I often feel, like I said, like we're at the bottom of the heap. And why me? Why do I have to have this thing? It is so complex. Sponsoring somebody with regards to food, it is very complex because every person is a little bit different. And then with time being abstinent, things change. Then menopause comes, or pregnancy, things change.
Right.
And I was writing about it this morning, and I had this thought, this soft whispering that God gave me this, gave me the one at the bottom, the hardest one, so that I could be even closer to him. So that I could, I mean, I know that, eaters and food people who have recovered, man, most of them work a really good program because we have to.
Yep.
We had no choice because we got to take the tiger out of the cage.
Yep.
All day long and serve it to other people too. So it's it's challenging, and yet I have the sense today that probably is the only way I would choose. Actually, I didn't choose that I would reach out for help from a higher power.
Yeah. Well, it certainly is, as I've said many times, I believe the most difficult addiction there is, because you do have to literally confront it on a daily basis, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 times a day, for yourself and for other people, in a culture that is just saturated in eating as a ritual, a human ritual for social connection. So, yep, all of that. Yes, amen. It sounds like you're navigating it comfortably. And one of the things I keep really telling especially the food addict people, whatever is overeating, undereating, quantity, whatever the problem is, that the promise is neutrality. It doesn't say it's going to be easy. It never says it's going to be easy.
Right.
But they do say it's going to be neutrality. And you're very conscious, expressed it wonderfully well, about that you have to stay conscious about it. You don't have to be paranoid. It's not about exercising your self-will. It's not about wrestling it to the ground. No, it's none of that. But you do have to stay conscious and consistent. Yeah. Thank you so much.
Yeah, you're welcome. So I thank you.
Well, I appreciate that. And as I say, every time somebody says the gratitude or the thank you or throws a little lily on my walkway, which is really nice. No, it's really nice. Of course, I enjoy that. It's a reinforcement and a confirmation that what I'm doing and taking the time to do is really literally helping people. But the way you express your gratitude is what you just said.
Yeah.
I sponsor other people, or I help other people, or I step guide other people, or in some way I pass on the message of positivity.
Right.
Yep. That's how you show your gratitude. Yep. Thank you so much.
And so this year, my experience has been a discovery of loneliness as perhaps being a form of self-pity. So my group that I've facilitated a group the whole year, which has been like a 12-step work for me. So I'm really grateful for that. But we were going over the principles. And so we talked about, the principles on page 56. And so I looked at vigilance for me. Mm-hmm. Awake, alert, especially to feelings of being disturbed. And so I talked about loneliness. Mm-hmm. And I explained to the group that loneliness could be, if even if I got the man that I want, I could still be lonely. Oh, and it's something that I need to work on, like it's an inside job. And so one of the group members said to me, I kind of disagree with that. I think that you are acknowledging a need that's not met. And I wanted to talk to you about that.
Yes, I agree with that too. Sure, but that's still inside, but go ahead.
That's what I wanted to talk about.
Yeah, well, what do you have specific questions about it or comments about it?
Well, could loneliness for me be a form of self-pity?
It could be. I'm not hearing it as that, by the way.
Because I've become willing to let I've become willing to let go of being afraid of being single for the rest of my life. It's on every one of my fear lists for years.
All right.
And I'm tired of it, and it's exhausting.
Yeah.
So I want to be okay if I never be with anybody. I want that to be okay. And that's it's frightening for me.
But see how you phrased it was very negative. I want to be okay if I'm never with anybody. All right. So what would be the opposite virtue, the strength, opposite the fear of being alone?
Courage and contentment with life as it is.
I like the idea of the contentment part. Yes, I think that would be the opposite virtue to the fear of being alone, would be content with my life as it is and me as I am. Now, I also think that the question the person asked you had some wisdom in it, actually. And as I heard you say it, it says maybe it's expressing some type of a need. All right.
Yes.
Now, it may be a healthy need where you really do want a bridge relationship. Then you would need to describe what that would look like for you as a healthy relationship. Or maybe it's a need that comes from some type of a negative or emptiness because you're not connected to yourself and your own life as it is. So I can't determine which one that is, but it sounded from her perspective that it might be something about, if I'm thirsty, that's my body telling me that for homeostasis, I need some water. If I'm hungry, that's my body telling me it needs to be fed in order to be content. And it may be in your heart or your soul or your emotions that there is this longing to have, and I don't use the word need there, this longing to have a relationship to give your life some more color where you can share it with somebody. Yeah.
That's exactly what I want. So I've done dating websites. I've had conversations with therapists. I've tried so many ways, and it's like zero, nothing.
Yeah. So I'm not sure how, maybe this is applicable. Let me just say it. Somebody said to me, we were having a very similar conversation. This happened to be a man, that I was working with, and he said, at some point I came to realize that I needed to sit down and write out several things, like we did with the sex ideal, to sit down and write out several things. What's the ideal relationship? Write it out. What would I look for as an ideal? Knowing that I'm not going to get the full Megillah, but what's the ideal, so that I can kind of get a sense of what am I looking for? That's the answer to the question. What am I expecting? What would be my dream? What am I looking for in terms of a relationship? Then second, and with whom would I want a relationship? What would that look like in terms of a description of an ideal, a vision statement, in terms of writing that out? And then the therapist actually helped him come to this. Write out what I have to become in order to attract that person.
Okay.
That's huge. That for me was that just opened the curtain for me. I thought that was a brilliant insight. Have an idea of who you want to have a relationship with, and then ask yourself, what kind of person would that person want to have a relationship with, and how do you measure up now, and or how could you?
Okay, well, I'll just round out the discussion by saying, off the top of my head, I would want somebody that's like has program thought,
Right.
Lives a program type of a life, a philosophy of the 12 steps.
Yeah. Or
somebody that
spiritual life. You're right.
Yes, leads a spiritual life. Somebody that has a career at, I'm in our 50s, maybe at the end of that doesn't have young children, so that we could travel and go places.
So
that.
But put them in writing.
Okay.
And then challenge yourself from their viewpoint, from their eyes. What would they be looking at in that person that you just idealized? What would they be looking for in their own lives? And how do I measure up to that?
All right, I will write that out. That's my commitment.
Yeah, good. I think it'll be a productive, there's no downside to it. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks very much for the conversation, very healthy conversation.
Basis out of the workshop is just this structure that you've put in place for us to be able to investigate character flaws. I've been working on two things. One is being kind, and the other one is humility. And the opportunity to, we'll just now the structure, which is one, look the word up in the dictionary and actually really go back to basics and really understand the word. That is really helpful. And something I added to it was to just make a really practical list of actions that I can do that are kind. Like, for instance, listen to other people and give people my time. And I've got 10 things on the kindness list and 10 things on the humility list, which are just, I just need that kind of really simple, what does that really mean to be kind? Mm. So that really, really helped me. And also having an accountability buddy in terms of it is really wonderful as well. And that's something that I've been able to pass on to my sponsees. And I believe, and I can see, is really helping my sponsees. So I'm very grateful for that. But I have got a question for you, and that is, how do I help my sponsee who doesn't want to let go of a resentment, who seems to be really holding on, like kind of going through the motions of it, but still having a resentment? And how long do you think is reasonable to have a resentment?
What's your role as a sponsor or step guide?
Well, I see it as helping my sponsee have a closer relationship with their higher power. I see that as my goal. It's not to tell them what to do, or it's just to make suggestions and to, bring them closer to God. What do you think?
Well, yes. Did that answer your question, though?
Sure, that answers my question in a general way.
It answers it specifically. It's not your job to make them do anything.
Yeah. Okay, got it.
Create a vision of where they can go and give them the instructions as to how to do it. And you can motivate them, you can coach them, you can support them, you can challenge them. Those are all, I think, wonderful attributes of a involved sponsor. But at the same time, all I do is I get to point the way. And they can follow my finger to the moon or not. All right. It's there. They can take a different direction. Absolutely. So, one, encourage them with the prayer, of course, for the removal of deep resentment. You might even ask them, do you really want to be relieved of this resentment? And not asking them for your purposes, but asking them to ask themselves that question. They don't even have to reveal it to you. Then, of course, encourage them with the practice, but also making sure that they have, in fact, seen the truth in doing an accurate and an analytical process in column 3 and column 4. I have never seen anybody want to hold on to a resentment once they've done an effective column 3 and column 4, because there's nothing in it for them except swimming in self-pity. Once they see and have an accurate column 3 and column 4. And if they feel that they've seen an accurate column 3 and column 4 and they still hold the resentment, then they haven't. So you could just say, well, why don't we try another column 3 and column number 4 on that particular thing, or a nuance of that thing. So give them a little bit more work to do. But the key question is, like, that's the first question I ask people who come to me new to the program is, do you really want to quit drinking? And there's a hesitation in many of them. They go, well, no, I just don't want to have problems anymore with my drinking. I go, okay, well, come back when you want to quit drinking, because I don't help you control your alcohol. I help you deal with getting rid of it. Yeah.
Thank you, Herb. That's you've hit the nail on the head, I really feel. And that is going back to column 3 and column 4.
Yeah. Yeah, if they have an authentic experience with it, no one's going to try to hold on to that resentment, because they will see that it's really just a cancer they created. Yeah, all right.
Thank you, Herb.
You bet.
I really, other than the fact that I'm a few things that I reflected on in terms of what's changing. One thing that I learned, that I've noticed, is that as I stop trying to please people, and I think pleasing people is a kind way of saying being manipulative, more.
Thank you.
Yeah. I'm easier to be around and more likable. Yeah. I had that epiphany. Like, I've been sort of reflecting on, what's changing and all that kind of stuff. And just, like yesterday I woke up and I read this article actually, and I was thinking about emailing it to you, and I will. It's from the authors of The 5 Love Languages, but it's about a mother's anger, and it talks about all the pressure points that come onto a mother that make her angry, like, children and mess and clutter and all this kind of stuff that we deal with. And yesterday I woke up and angry for reasons, and I put on my sneakers, got on some outreach calls, and by the time I got home an hour later, I wasn't angry. And just simple things like that, and I still had to deal with everything, of course, but that kind of behavior change for me is profound. Right. And I mean, it's deeply profound, because by the time I got home, Herb, I woke up and I wanted to murder everybody, but by the time I got home, everyone was still alive, and I didn't have to make a single amends, and I didn't have to go to jail or anything like that,
Yes, ma'am, I do. That's
yeah.
step.
Yeah. And so just those just basic stuff that is very powerful for me. So increased awareness, daily reflection on, like, who do I want to be, like how do I want to be of service and stuff. And honestly, Herb, like the relationship I have with my kids, I'm very blessed. I'm very lucky, actually. I have amazing kids, but very powerful, very deep, fun relationship that I have with my husband. And I don't think that I'd be able to have that if I wasn't in recovery, because I was secretive, isolating, like a lot of bad stuff, a lot of bad stuff that I'm not doing anymore. And I enjoy it. So, I mean, that's really all I wanted to say. I feel like I'm oversharing because I was on last week.
That's a witness to the impact of this process.
Yeah. It's so great. It's just really, really, and I think it really, I am changing, and I don't know, like the things that used to, what in the beginning, my third step prayer was something about relieve me of my petty concerns. And I do feel elevated, like my self-centered petty concerns. Nice. And a lot of things that I thought were important just are not. And then what that does is that frees me up into this whole, like, new life, because I'm not worried about silly things.
Right. Yes.
Yeah. So I guess the next phase for me is just to do more, absolutely, and to just keep going.
Or maybe do less and be more.
I love that. Yes. Thanks, Herb. Bye.
My life has changed. Mm-hmm. And you've just you cracked me open. Yeah. Your words meant I saw step one in such a different light. I thought I was getting abstinent, and then I lost it, and I could do it and I couldn't do it. I never knew the second part of step one was not being able to stay, away. The other thing, the big thing, I wondered if I never realized what lack of trust I had in life, in God. It was so hard for me to trust somebody else in the program, to even let go a little bit and say, okay, and everything that everybody else has said to you. My study group has given me, like you said, a support. Everybody share. I accept my humanness. I'm kinder besides liking my husband again, and he's still the biggest challenge for me. But I want to tell you something. He said to me, thank you. I don't know, whatever it was. he noticed it. My kids noticed it. I accept him for who he is, and I was able to see the part that I fell in love with.
There you go. Wow. Wonderful.
And I mean, that was the heartache in my heart all this time. I thought I had to leave. I thought that my spirit was dead if I stayed in the marriage.
Yeah.
I thought that, in fact, I remember thinking when I started this, how many times I started all these different programs, Lifeboat and, you know, another AWOL program and all the programs. And I always ended up in the same corner in the same room and couldn't let go of my resentments, couldn't let go of being a victim, and couldn't take responsibility for myself.
Yeah.
By working the program and not worrying about my food is fine. I have neutrality. I am conscious of what I want to eat, and my self-talk has changed.
Oh, wow.
And
yeah, that's important.
It's the self-talk. I've said, do you really want to do this? Is this worth it? Now, I've said it before, the pause, everything that you've taught. This is my first time around with you. And I am also planning on being a listener next time. And I'm also planning on sponsoring. And I feel very qualified because my test is with my family, you know. And that's how I
start that way.
I do. I say, you know, how was I? How did I treat my husband today?
Right.
Did I not push my own ideas? Did I, you know, was I gracious, and how did I help people? So anyway, a whole different way of thinking.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. And to all of you who have shared, and wonderful, yes, absolutely, it's great. There's more. There's more. It's hard to believe my cup overfloweth, but I'm given a bigger cup. It's amazing. I've been doing this workshops now for 25 years, and it just keeps expanding. My own life in earlier, a person used one of my favorite words, which is flourish. Such a rich word.
Yes, yes. I agree. And I think the other thing is that I never wrote. I never liked writing. I meditated, but I never liked the writing. And now my daily God letters, and if I don't start my day with God,
Yep.
I look forward to it.
Yeah.
I look forward to it. I don't want to not have it in my life.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. So I'm just very grateful that you showed up at that conference.
Oh, yes.
That I was there. I think it's a God thing. I really do.
Yeah.
And every day what I say is, dear God, thank you for my lessons and my blessings.
Yeah. Wonderful. Yeah. Lessons and blessings. It's on both sides of it. There you go. Putting a positive spin even on lessons, which probably have a little bit of suffering involved with it.
Right. Right. Definitely. I'm just glad I stuck at it for 40 years.
That's right. That's right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Every year prepared you for the next year, and here you are. And the exciting part is, you know, you're on the path, and it'll continue. Thank you so much.
And thank you everybody who's on and has shared.
Yeah. And thanks to the leadership of the Vision for You for having the courage actually to invite me, because I'm not in an eating disorder fellowship, and they took a risk by having me come, because they could have gotten a lot of slings and arrows from other people who said, well, why is he here? He's not in our program. But they took a risk, and it did work out. So that was wonderful.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right, team. Let's pray the transformation prayer. Think about it as we pray this prayer of turning from self-centeredness to other-centeredness. Hear the process of the turning and hear the promise of the turning. This prayer really captures it. Lord, make me a channel of your peace, that where there is hatred, I may bring love, that where there is wrong, I may bring the spirit of forgiveness, that where there is discord, I may bring harmony, that where there is error, I may bring truth, that where there is doubt, I may bring faith, that where there is despair, I may bring hope, that where there are shadows, I may bring light, that where there is sadness, I may bring joy. Lord, grant that I may seek rather to comfort than to be comforted, to understand than to be understood, to love than to be loved. For it is by self-forgetting that one finds, it is by forgiving that one is forgiven. It is by dying that one awakens to eternal life. Amen.